If you have ever worked nights, you know the line between quiet and wrong. These are 4 true accounts from people who stayed when most sleep. I verified details, cut names, and kept the bones. Listen in, keep lights on. I worked admissions at a small hospital from 11 at night to 7 in the morning. Most nights meant paperwork, a few walk-ins, and a guard doing slow rounds. One surgical wing down the hall was closed for renovation. Its lights were off, doors sealed, and a lonely courtesy phone hung beside them. Around 1, that phone rang. I answered at my desk. A calm man said he was a surgeon and needed the supply room in the closed wing opened. I did not recognize the name. I told him the wing was sealed and after hours access was not allowed. He went quiet. I heard metal clink like keys on a ring. Then he said he would be right there and ended the call. I radioed our guard. He was on the far side of the floor and said he would head over. Before he reached me, the courtesy phone rang again, even though I had returned it to the hook. The sound did not come from my handset. It came from the dark hall. I stood to look. The air near that wing felt colder, like stepping into a basement. In the dim red from the exit signs, I saw a figure in scrubs by the glass doors. No badge. A surgical mask covered most of his face. His eyes looked through me. I raised a hand and asked to see his badge. He mirrored me, palm to the glass, and I noticed thin gloves. I backed to my window and slid it shut. As I reached for the radio, a side door just left of my station clicked. The handle turned a fraction and held, as if a key was trying teeth. I ducked and pressed the panic button under the counter. The courtesy phone stopped. For a few seconds there was only the hum and my breathing against fabric. Then the key moved again, smooth and patient. I watched the reflection on my monitor as the handle turned, then eased back. The sound drifted away toward the closed wing. The guard arrived and we checked the corridor. The courtesy phone was hanging sideways. Its cord lay on the floor, cut clean. A small smear of something dark marked the medroom reader. Later, when we reviewed the access logs, a badge with pharmacy rights had pinged that door 3 times in 1 minute. No one had reported a badge missing. Police took a report and asked me to keep the window locked. In the morning, they dusted the glass and found prints spaced like fingertips at the height of my throat. On the camera feed, there was a single close frame of pale eyes staring right into the lens before the image went to static. The man was never identified. After that night, I crossed that lobby faster, like the cold there remembered my name. I worked nights alone at a gas station beside a 2-lane road and a field of dark. The rule taped to the register was simple. Lock the door if anything feels wrong. Drop the bills. Do not go outside. The wrong feeling arrived on a Sunday around 2 in the morning. A pickup eased to the far pump and idled under the canopy without anyone stepping out. The chime at the door rang even though the glass never moved. That happened sometimes when the air conditioner kicked, but the timing made my back prickle. I checked the feed on our old camera. The picture rolled once, then steadied on an empty doorway. When I looked up, there was a man already at the counter. I had not watched him come in. He wore work boots, a hat with no logo, and gloves that looked too new. He tapped the bell with 2 fingers and smiled in a way that left his eyes cold. He said his truck had a flat. He asked me to come take a look with my light. He leaned in like he was asking for a favor between friends. I told him I could call a tow but could not leave the counter. He kept smiling. The bell rang again under his hand. Harder. Above him hung a convex mirror for blind aisles. In it I caught a second head outside, low by the ice freezer, as if someone was crouched. I did not stare. I let my eyes pass and return so I could be sure. The head dipped back behind the freezer door. I pressed the silent alarm with my knee and set the heavy flashlight on top of the counter like a choice. I told the man I would lock the door while I made the call so no one wandered in. I took 3 steps back and hit the lock. He shifted from charm to irritation like a switch. He pulled at the handle and mouthed something I could not hear. The engine outside revved. I heard the rattle of the employee door in the back hall. Someone who knew the store was trying it like they had a key. I grabbed the mop, jammed its wooden end under the knob, and picked up the phone. I spoke clearly to the tow company and used the man's phrasing so he would think I was helping him. I did not mention the deputy headed my way. He moved from the door to the window and stared at me with a flat face and hands in his pockets. The second figure rose behind the ice like a thin shadow and then ducked again. The store hummed. The cooler fans never sounded so loud. Blue light rolled across the pumps at last. The pickup peeled away without buying gas. The deputy arrived moments later. He tried the door, saw my hands shaking on the lock, and motioned for me to stay put. He walked the canopy with his light low, then cut across to the ice freezer. There were 2 clear knee prints in the dust on its lid, and a smear at the edge where someone had steadied themselves to peek. Around back, the employee door showed fresh pry marks near the latch, shallow but confident, like someone had tested it before. The pickup had no plate on the bumper, just a frame. On the concrete under the far pump, he found a circle of cigarette ash and 2 boot impressions angled toward the door, like they had been deciding. He took my statement, then walked me through a practical rule I never forgot. If they ask you to leave light to see a problem, the problem is already inside with you. In the morning, my manager showed me a stack of reports from nearby stations. Same truck, same trick. One clerk had opened the door. He never came back to the counter. At a midweek highway hotel, I worked the graveyard audit alone. 2 floors, old card readers, out-of-order room 412 waiting on carpet. At 2:59 a.m., the front desk phone flashed an internal call, 412. I answered. A woman whispered that someone was trying the handle and she couldn't wake her husband. Then the line went dead. Our system showed 412 vacant, bolt thrown. No keys checked out. I pulled up the 4th floor camera. The frame showed the hall in a wash of yellow. 408, 410, 412. The ice alcove. Nothing moved. I took the metal override key and went upstairs. Radio on my shoulder turned to low. The air outside 412 felt colder than the rest of the hallway, like an open unit was pulling summer in. The peephole was dark. I slid the tool against the latch. The chain inside rattled gently and held, as if someone's finger pressed it from the other side. I stepped back and called for 1-2 from my cell. After 4 rings, the phone picked up and I heard only room air. A slow mechanical breath and a soft hiss like TV snow. Then a children's rhyme came through tinny and slow, off-key, as if played from a small speaker across the room. I called police and my manager. The officer arrived with the chain tool. We popped the door. The room was empty. The AC ran on high. The bedspread was creased only at one corner. Housekeeping had left a folded towel on the desk. Under it, a prepaid phone lay plugged into the lamp base, set to speaker, looping a 30-second audio file named One for London Bridge, sung by a single voice. In the closet we found a thin blanket, 2 apple cores, and a water bottle wrapped in a sock. The window security bar had been slipped with a butter knife. In the morning, logs showed a room-to-room call placed from 412 to 312 at 2:58. The guest in 312 had complained about footsteps above her minutes earlier. No one saw who built the nest above the ice machine. The hall camera had been unplugged with care. That night taught me the scariest rooms aren't haunted. They're occupied by someone who knows how to vanish between frames. I still check that peephole. I worked nights as a track maintainer for the city rail. The window to fix things is short. Last train clears, power drops, you move. That January, my partner called in sick, so I took a solo inspection through a short tunnel section between 2 stations while a supervisor watched the panel from the crew truck at the mouth. The tunnel air has a taste, iron and brake dust, that dries your tongue. I walked the right-of-way with a battery floodlight and a chalk marker, calling out tie counts and defects so the supervisor could log them. At 2:33 a.m., my radio crackled and his voice came through. My name, twice, then back out. Now. It was flat like a recording. I thumbed transmit and asked what he saw. A second later, the exact same call played again, same spacing like someone pressed repeat. I retreated 10 steps and keyed again. The supervisor answered, said he hadn't called. He told me to stand by while he checked the panel. I aimed the light down the curve. My beam caught dust hanging in a still sheet and fresh footprints in the ballast that weren't mine. They arced from the wall to the gauge and then stopped where there was no tie. The ballast lay undisturbed beyond, like whoever left the prince had stepped up and out of air. My radio hissed a third time. The voice that spoke was mine. Same cadence, same rasp, same 2 words I say at the start of safety checks. Hearing yourself when you haven't spoken yet compresses your chest in a way I can't explain. My supervisor came over the line again, telling me to come out. He sounded small on the speaker compared to that other me. I kept my light high and backed toward the safe zone boards. My beam flashed across a tie and landed on chalk markings that weren't mine. A neat arrow pointing at the dark, and my name in block letters under it. The mark was so clean it looked drawn a breath ago. My radio transmitted a 4th time. My name in my partner's accent, from the tunnel ahead. He swore later he never said it. He swore his radio was sitting on the truck bed the whole time. Battery cover off. We pulled out, restored power, and filed it. Logs showed nothing. My chalk went missing from my vest. Night shifts teach one rule. When routine twitches, move. Lock the door. Trust the ripple in your gut. The quiet isn't empty. It's waiting to be filled by whatever notices you.